What is a house for contemporary circus? Is it a tent? Or an actual building? Or maybe a converted church turned into an art center? Or something different altogether? Tent House for Contemporary Circus has created a category of their own. For the past 13 years, they've built and contributed to the development of the Dutch circus landscape. With the Fast Forward program, they had the opportunity to spread their wings internationally and collaborate with the renowned home for contemporary circus in the UK, Jackson's Lane in London. My name is Maaike Muis. I'm a moderator, host and podcast maker, and in 3 episodes I take you on a journey through the 1.5-year Fast Forward trajectory of Tent and their international ambitions and collaborations. Over the course of 1 year, I made recordings of the collaborations, the R&D, research and development, and the showcase in Jackson's Lane in London. And several recordings along the process at Tent in Amsterdam North. This first episode is called JobShadowing. JobShadowing is a concept that's quite common in the UK. It means that, in this case, Tent observes the work of the team of Jackson's Lane on several visits. They can sit in on various meetings and really experience every part of the work Jackson's Lane does, from the different perspectives: marketing, artistically, social engagement, business, community building, etc. What can Tent learn from running an actual venue for contemporary circus, especially in relation to their international ambitions and dreams?
The chance for us, the 3 of us, to think outside the box, to not just have funding or opportunities for our makers, but that we, the 3 of us, could have plans about our dreams, and then being able to do that is a gift.
But first, what and who is Tent? I'm talking to Maaike Muis and Jayid Metin, 2 of the founders and directors of Tent in their offices in Amsterdam North. Maaike is wearing a light pink Tent hoodie with "I'm running with Circus" on it, and Jayid is, as usual, dressed in a black t-shirt and black jeans. You can see and feel by everything that they've been working together for a very long time.
Tent is a house. Tent is a place where circus can develop and grow, where we can nurture ideas and inspiration until it develops into something that is both appealing and amazing to audiences all around the world.
Maaike.
Top that. No, I think for me it's also being really innovative in the circus field. So Tent is a place where you can create innovative circus.
But you say it's a house. What's a house?
A house is a place where you can feel at home. So where you can be yourself, where you can feel safe, and where you can be supported by other housemates.
And for you?
This is a bit a joke, of course, Tent, that says we're the house of circus and we don't have a real house.
Nor a tent.
So it's a bit of a joke, but actually it's what Jayid said. It's the place you can call home.
How many makers do you support each year now?
We have 6 makers for a week. We have 1 maker for a year, and then we have a maker for 2 years, which in this case consists of 3 people. So, well, depends on how you count. Then we have the house maker, or the maker for 4 years. Next to that, we have the open stage twice a year, which contains usually 5 acts. And we have a festival. Altogether, I would say at least 10 a year.
Quite a lot. And how big is the Tent team?
We're with a core team of 5. And we work a lot with freelancers on the specific projects, but core team of only 5, which creates quite some pressure sometimes. When we're peaking all together, and it can feel like a pretty heavy workload every now and then. Yeah.
So in order to make it more sustainable, you would like to change some things for the next 4 years?
Yeah, I think we love the work that we do, but it needs to be able to continue as well for the next coming 20 years. And at this pace, we're all dead in 5 years. So let's make it a little bit more durable.
Together with Rosa Boon, Hanneke and Jait form the direction of Tent. A question they get asked quite often is, why do they have 3 directors?
Yeah, I think it came from our background. Like, we started, the 3 of us, on the floor as kids performing together. And even though we're totally different, I think together we are one. So this brings us the diversity within the 3 of us. And I think this is also what makes us unique and working very well. Because the moment I'm done with something, or having trouble with some funding or something, there's always somebody else who is okay with it and wants to take over or can have a different way of thinking about it. I think it makes our jobs easier. And yeah, it's of course because we know each other for a long time.
Yeah, you know each other for more than 30 years, right?
Yeah, I think I was 12 when I met Rosa and Jait. So it's really nice. And to be honest, I don't think we changed that much in working together. It's actually...
Since you're 12 till now?
To be honest, I think so, yeah. We still make the same jokes. We still do the same things when we're producing something, or if we're on the floor, or... I mean, it didn't change, no.
In November 2022, a delegation of Jackson's Lane was in Amsterdam to see the JobShadowing from the other side.
Okay, but not so good.
My French is...
better than mine.
My French should be good too.
Next to me, it's perfect, man.
Well, I hope so. The British always said that they still used to pay you to have residency.
Rosa organized different meetings for Jackson's Lane to sit in with, such as this meeting with somebody from the Amsterdam City Council.
We delivered a plan in collaboration with Jackson's Lane, and the idea about the plan was to actually focus on 3 parts of the development of Tent in an international context, all related to collaborating with the UK, with the first part being learning about how to run an actual house for contemporary circus, or a physical house, because that is a bit the dream for Tent in the further future, to have a space in Amsterdam, preferably in the north, where we can both present, train, have residencies, have young people taking classes. So really build a proper house for the circus, for the development in a larger sense. And these lovely people have a place like that in London. So that's also the reason why we chose them as partners. And we were there with our whole troupe of people to really do what we call the job sharing experience. So to really learn from one another into how do you function, in which context also, because you guys are similar to us in a city, in a context of a city where you deal with being in a borough, working, having social projects around you, but also programming circus, producing it, and how does it work and what effects does it have. And the other parts of the collaboration are an international co-production that we're setting up right now, and we're doing a pre-research. And the third part is a showcase. So we're going to showcase work of Dutch young circus artists in the UK next year, October. So we have like a little festival in a weekend in which we invite a lot of English programmers to come and see the work, with the idea to tour the work in a later stage in the UK for them.
In the threemanship, Rosa is the driving force behind the networking and collaboration and shaping of the Fast Forward trajectory. During this period, she also became a mom, and she was on maternity leave, so you'll hear her voice only in the first episode. You'll hear more about the co-producing and Dutch showcase in London and networking in episode 2 and 3. Let me introduce you to Jackson's Lane first with artistic director Adrian Berry.
All of this is through to... I'll show you downstairs.
Yeah.
It's easy
so confusing.
It is confusing.
But it used to be a church.
Oh, the whole thing used to be a church.
And then in 1975... Jackson's Lane is located in the northeast of London. If you leave the Highgate tube station, you walk up the hill and across a very busy road, you see a quite big old church in early Gothic style. After meeting Adrian, or Aid as everyone calls him, in the cafe of Jackson's Lane, he takes me through the building, which is a labyrinth of stairs and studios. Aid looks a bit like a British rock star. He has bright, friendly blue eyes, slick, dark hair in mod style, with tight black jeans and black Chelsea boots. And what is Jackson's Lane?
Cool, good question. We used to be called a community centre back in the 80s, and it's called, even on Google Maps, I think it still says Jackson's Lane Community Centre. What we say now, we're an arts centre for many communities, which is a different thing entirely. So we're many things. So we're the UK's leading venue for contemporary circus and supporting and presenting and touring. That's, the main artistic thing we do. We also have a really strong programme for families as well, theatre programme. We have an outreach and education department called our Creative Engagement Department, which does work pretty much all out of the building because of the transport links and everything to hard to reach areas. So we work with young people and older people on social circus classes, which are free. We have something called Broadway Brunch, which is a regular themed lunch and arts and performance for elderly people. And we're going to be one of the venues which are called Warm Spaces with the energy crisis which is happening. We're basically saying to people, come to Jackson's Lane, you're welcome. You can sit here. You don't have to buy anything from the cafe. You don't have to go and see a show. You can just come here and be warm. That's really important. We have nearly 50 arts classes and courses, from flamenco to lightsaber fighting, not really fighting, to baby yoga, to photography societies, and that they take place in our 5 studios. And then we have a large space called Studio One, which is a commercial space, I suppose, in that we rent it out for parties and weddings. Harry Styles made his video with Phoebe Waller-Bridge here, or rehearsed his video here. We're just I think a place where people can feel welcome and safe.
How many people do you reach each year, like in the building itself and outside the building?
Theatre audiences are about 30,000 a year. That's what we do. We know that for a fact.
With a venue with only 168 seats. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's good. And then we estimated through people coming in to use the cafe and the courses, about 100,000 a year.
And from the meetings you had so far, what is the most important advice that you have given them, or you would like to give on specifically about this ambition of having their own space and own venue?
I think if you need to speak to every member of our team that they met with, because you'll get one about health and safety from Warwick, and then another from Belen about how to maximise commercial income to support, or to me about the kind of sort of deals that we do with artists and how we support artists and things like getting tax relief on giving space. So I think the most important thing I'd said to them is that you have to diversify your income, which is a really business approach, but putting on shows doesn't make money. Quite the opposite. It often loses. So we have to have this mixed economy because our Arts Council funding only represents 10% of our turnover.
This is how Jackson's Lane is organised and financed. If 10 dreams ahead, how would they envision their venue?
The dreams depends on who you're talking to. That's also really nice, I think. And I think they're also changing all the time, and which is also nice. And the thing is, because it's still dreaming per person, and we don't have to make choices at the moment. It's really nice that we can still dream about every part of it. We don't have it yet, so everything is still possible. And I think this makes it now, and within this fast forward trajectory, it's just the chance to think big, still think big, to not be limited with the choices, not limited with money. I mean, it's still in our heads, and that makes it, open.
And for you?
Well, if you talk about what the dream image in my head is, that would be a house where we can find a home for all our activities, where we can make a connection with an audience, so a theater venue as well, residency spaces, so sleeping possibilities for artists from all over the world. I think a house also makes that 1 and 1 becomes 3.
Working interculturally also means different ways of communication, different working practices. I asked Aid and Jade about their experiences.
I think it's still the ethos of Tent felt very similar to Jackson's Lane in that we work really hard, but we're pretty relaxed. So I didn't think there was much difference, actually. It was more like, oh, this feels comfortable and familiar. I can tell they're working their asses off. But it was not a sort of rigid corporate environment, which you do get in some countries. I won't say which ones, but one I've just been to recently for a festival. It was everything was rigidly structured and 3-hour meetings. And I was like, oh God, I hope it's not going to be this. And it wasn't.
What about for you, Jade? Was it the first time you were job shadowing here? What are things that stood out to you?
Well, I very much agree with Aid in the sense that I think our organizations match on a level of relaxedness and at the same time working like crazy people. I remember very well that we at the first job shadowing visit when we came here, we were allowed to join a team meeting, and there was this lovely moment of what's the name for it? You call it the
cultural highlight.
The cultural highlight. Yeah. That is it. The meeting starts with everybody telling something that they found interesting in the field of culture in the broadest sense possible. It was fantastic, and it was something that we really took home. Also, the way of having this team meeting, I think we learned something from that. And after that, because we were an organization that was capable of having meetings of 3, 4, 5 hours. Many years ago, we tried to improve that, but after visiting here, we even took another step in making it more efficient, making it more to the point. Yeah.
Next to experiencing running your own venue, a topic that came up again and again and again was diversity and inclusion. It's such a key topic if you're working with a venue in the UK.
Just consider diversity in its broadest sense. Yeah, I really do. I used to be quite narrow-minded, thinking it's all about skin colour. And we've learnt more and more. It's actually not at all. And we apply that to our recruitment. We apply that to our board. It's not just about the work. It's about your broader approach, education, training, workshops, everything. So it's not just about what's being performed.
Even though diversity and inclusion is much more than about what's being performed and who is performing, however, representation on stage is also a part of the diversity and inclusion policy of Jackson's Lane, especially in their borough, which is a very culturally diverse neighbourhood.
We're doing a circus production for Christmas. It's 3 Billy Goats Gruff. But we made a commitment within the cast of 4 that 50% would be artists of colour. As in, so if there were 2 artists of consideration that are both equally good acrobats, we would consider the person of colour, because we know a lot of our audiences, they like to see themselves represented on stage, quite rightly. But sometimes for international work, it's difficult. We're not going to turn the work down because it's not diverse enough. But similarly, I don't know about the diversity of the people in the Dutch Circus Showcase. I don't know their sexuality. I don't know their gender, how they identify, if they have disabilities. So, a lot of socioeconomics, a lot of diversity is invisible. So it's not for me to say, oh, it's not very diverse. It's not our position to make assumptions of who artists are.
And Jade, you just said that you got a different view on diversity and inclusion through job shadowing and collaborating with Jackson's Lane. How do you deal with it on a daily basis with Tent?
Well, there's an issue there because, like Aid said, there's a very clear visual aspect to people of color, but there's also a lot that's hidden, and there's a real dilemma there when you and on one side want to be as diverse and inclusive as you can, but at the same time, you're not just want to tick boxes and ask questions like, hey, what's your socioeconomic status? Because then maybe if you are of a certain position in society, you're much more pervert than somebody else. That's not how you want to work. It's the artistic element that you bring that should be leading. At the same time, if that always prevails, you might miss a whole range of interesting people that are also very important.
What has it meant for you personally, also being of Turkish descent, right? Born and raised in the Netherlands. It's really strange. I've been working with you for such a long time, and I never think of your mixed descent. But on the other hand, now I'm doing this interview, and all of a sudden I'm realizing but it's part of your story too, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And in the past, I used to visit the youth circus when I was young, and then this topic of cultural diversity was very new and very upcoming, and it happened that I was pushed forward. Selected over other people to represent the organization just because of my name, which also made me a bit hesitant and not always so comfortable with the topic because it's very easy to resort to cultural diversity, and my name ticks a box. So that on a personal level makes it sometimes extra complicated. With intent, I think we are at the point that we have always found it an important topic, but we are at the point that we are ready to really make a difference and maybe force a movement by putting an extra focus on this element in our selection procedure. So there's awareness and there's a will to make a change. And that's also on a personal level something that changed within me. Before I was very, very hesitant to even discuss the topic. And now I'm personally at the point that I'm like, okay, if we want to make a change here, I also need to step over my personal issue with this topic. Yeah.
And has this trajectory helped in that sense on making those decisions? Or?
I think it's parallel, but this collaboration confirmed it. Yeah.
Even though Tent gained new insights on diversity and inclusion, it also corresponds with what Rosa calls the DNA of Circus. This DNA that Jait, Hanneke and Rosa all experienced together when they met as teenagers at Circus Elleboog.
I believe that Circus, in the way where it comes from, has the base to be open to everybody. So to open their doors to everybody that is welcome. So in Elleboog we used to say, you're always welcome. If you can't walk, if you can't juggle, you can maybe make a costume, or you can maybe walk on a ball. Or you can. So there's space for everybody, and that's I always say, within the DNA of the circus, and that's why I was.
What are lessons that Tent take home?
I think that a very important lesson is that you have to find a balance between community activity and artistic activity in a house as Jackson's Lane is. When you're there, you see people walking in and out. There's all kinds of classes and groups making use of the studios. There's a little cafe, and this is really nice. It's maybe something we have always been saying, that's not really something for us. But I guess one of my realizations has been that you need to find a balance in that.
Yeah, I think the chance for us, the three of us, to think outside the box. Normally we are planning for everybody else and we have ambitions for our makers, but to take one step back, to look at our dreams again, and this is an opportunity you normally don't get. So this feels like the gift. the gift of standing still a bit to think about what you want and then start running.
Even though it's on top of the normal workload you already have.
Well, let's not talk about that. It's fun.
This was the first episode of the Fast Forward Adventure of Tent. In the next episode, we dive into what it's like to start an international co-production. These series were commissioned by Performing Arts Fund Netherlands. Concept, production, editing, mixing and mastering by Maaike Muis. Indispensable editorial advice, Ruud Verraes. Many thanks to Jackson Slane, Tent and Performing Art Funds Netherlands. Thanks very much for listening.